And
There we-
there we go.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. This is episode 17. I've got my good buddy Pod. Chris is the man, the myth, the legend. He has been in Sub 2 for a good while now. I met him because of the Integrator Unite call where he hosts with Rachel Schwartz and Ryan Love, who have also become dear friends of mine. And Chris runs Podimation, which is a GHL build out, which has been critical in people's success in the community. So, Chris, why don't you kick it off? Just kind of tell us who you are, where you came from, how you got here, and yeah, let's get this party started.
Absolutely, dude. Love it. So, I go by Pod. It's kind of been a several things behind it. One has kind of been a nickname growing up. Second of all, it's my real estate business, property options and developments. Um, I first got into the real estate side, um, actually the business side of it back in 2019, 2018. Back when my twin girls were born. So that there started that whole journey because like twins is like something exceptional. Like it's not something that people expect all the time. It's not like just having one baby, but like surprise too. And so it was just like, okay, there's going to be an impact. And like basically if I kept working, going to a regular W-2 job, that whole time, like my W-2 paycheck would basically go to for the daycare. It's like, well, if we're doing that and that's all that it's going for, might as well not even work. So I decided to stay home then. And then at that time, it was like I still needed to do something, still wanted to do something. And so then that's kind of like when I started moving down the real estate side, understanding the power of it and the value of it. And I didn't really quite understand it beforehand, but like I knew that it was valuable. You have something that you can, make money off of, just like renting cars and stuff like that. You're like, yeah, but I didn't really know how to do that. So then I got into one community and learned my first year there, and then I found Pace, and that there was back in the days of like I actually knew Pace before he started his thing, his the sub 2 group. And I first seen him on Steve Trank's podcast, Real Estate Disruptors. And again, like I said, I saw him there before he had even started up SubTo. And it was crazy because I learned about Jamil doing the Astro side, doing the realtor outreach. And then I heard about Brent Daniels, doing, basically the lead generation side. And Jamil was basically doing dispos. And then the third one that I heard was Pace. Dude, that thing was just amazing. Like I tell you guys, that podcast was totally amazing and eye-opening because it was like I already knew about wholesaling and fixing and flipping, and like that was it. I just knew those two things. So once I then heard Pace talking and just like all of a sudden what he was doing, it was just like jaw dropping. It was like, oh my goodness. And then I found out about that he had the sub 2 community, or he was starting up the sub 2. And so like right around the mark of 300 students only from now 13, almost 14,000. That's how long I've been in. So my journey, within the sub 2, and like I would say that there was my jump off point, my launching point of that, because I already knew like the underwriting and stuff like that, looking at those numbers and doing the fix and flips and stuff like that. But in the sub 2, then that there is when my eyes really got open to um how you can structure deals. And like, it wasn't a matter of just, hey, we're gonna beat you up on price and get a low ball price, but it was all of a sudden like just changing my whole mindset is like, great, you want to sell your house? What are you looking for? What if I can get you that? And then it was just like that there made me stand out from all the other people because everybody else was beating them up on price. And it was like if I knew how to give that price and make that deal work without beating anybody up on that price. And so
Yeah.
then being able to do that, like it was just like, oh, okay, great. Like now I just watch deals coming in, and look at those, and then just like over the time, and I'll tell you this too, man, it took some time. I got into the Pace back in 2020. So back when it was just brand new. I think it was June, like May, I think is when he started. June is when I got in, like right there of 2020. So now we're here up in 2024, 4 years later. But it does take some time to actually learn that.
Yep.
And it is something that is, I keep telling everybody too, it's your number one thing that you're going to need to do. Learn how to structure and underwrite these deals. Like number one, doesn't matter. You have to understand exit strategies, structuring your deals, and the whole underwriting process. Like you have to understand the cost of capital. How, okay, this deal right now, Adam brings me a deal and he says, hey, there's 500 cash flow. Okay, great. Now I got to add in my cost of capital on that. Let's say it's $400. And then now I got to add on the insurance on that deal. Well, now that's $500 or another $100. Now I'm out 500. I'm already at zero. That deal already sucks, right? Like it already sucks right then and there. And that's just by knowing and understanding what items I need and what are going to work and what don't work. And
Mhm.
so, like, yeah, it does take time. You're going to see lots and lots and lots of deals, and then like a lot and lot of shitty deals.
Yep.
Um, so even the other year when I was teaching acquisitions and teaching people how to do this, I actually went through and I was teaching people how to look at a deal in like under 5 minutes just to see if if it was a viable deal.
Mhm.
You know, not if it was picturesque perfect, but if you're looking to spend $48,000, would something at $50,000 be close enough? Might that work for you? Yeah. Let me see if I can't talk them down a little bit, right? Let me see if I can't finagle something. Let me see if they don't come down, I might be able to come up, that $2,000. It's just like when you go and buy a car. You're like, hey, I got 15 grand in my pocket. But they're like, hey, 15,999. And you're like, well, my limit's like 15. Well, you always have a window. You'll always go up. They'll always come down. So
Mhm.
once you know that, then you can play around with that. And that's the whole point is getting there to see if it's still going to work.
Yeah.
Now, if you're looking to buy that car at 15 and someone says, hey, I'm selling it at 20, you obviously know that that's out. But if they're like, hey, I'm selling it for 16, you'll still go over there and make that trip. It's worth your time to invest a little bit into it to see if it really is worth that, you know. And that's what you got to do on these deals themselves too.
Well, and even if they are selling it for 20, right? Like if they're a motivated enough seller, it might still be worth your time. But you have to do the due diligence to know that.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to be able to look at it. And the way I've told people too is that I can pretty much structure any deal to work. It's just a matter of if that structure is going to work for that seller. And if it doesn't, then we just circle back. We see what else we can do. We see what else we can do. If they're not happy on a 50-year term, with 2% down, okay, that's fine. That deal probably doesn't work for them. But that there's that type of transaction that like that's my setup. That's where it's going to work for me. That's
Right.
the numbers that I'm happy about. And I'm Adam, I'm sure you get asked this too.
Well,
How
and that
much
yeah,
how much should I be getting from a rental property?
as much as you need.
What are you happy with? I
Yeah.
mean, are you happy with making $50? Are you happy with making $500? What do you need to make that work? Are you somebody that had to put a lot of time and effort and, have to fix that thing up to make that work? Well, then you're probably going to need a higher number. But if it's just something that like you got today and you called them up yesterday and it took you no time, no effort, and they're like, yeah, dude, just give me $50 and I'll sell you this. Right. Great. I'll make $50 on it. I'm happy. Like it didn't cost me anything. It took me no time, no effort, no sweat, so I'm good with that. But then
Yeah.
again, now the game too. We got all these different people. Okay, some people will sit there, buy different buyers. Buyers will sit there and take negative equity properties for tax purposes.
Mhm.
Everybody's in the game for different things. Some people want to make a profit, some people want to take a loss because so they can make a profit, you know? Don't judge a book.
No, dude, like you said, it's all about where you're at, but you just have to know these things for yourself. And like you said in the beginning, if you don't know how to underwrite and structure the deal, you're relying on other people that they're hopefully telling you the truth. And I the reason I wanted to bring that up is because I actually had that come into my inbox the other day, or yesterday actually. Jessica was just giving me shit about it. I was on the phone with her when this happened, or right after it happened. Guy hits me up in the morning. Hey, I'm looking for an equity partner. No context. I don't know who he is. Never met him. And I'm interested now because I'm like an equity partner. Is this a private equity deal? Like, is this a PMP deal? Like, what are we talking here? Are you looking at RV parks or multifamily or businesses, or are you talking like a pad split? Like, what are we talking?
Right.
So I start talking to him, and I'm like, hey man, like, what do you have? Well, I have this like it's formerly a senior living home, and I want to flip, and I can flip it. Purchase price is 130, ARV is 480. Okay, well, how'd you come to 480? Where's your underwriting? What's an underwrite? Like, hold on, what do you mean what's an underwrite? I said, you don't have like I said, do you have comps? No, you can't comp it. So then how do you have the ARV? Well, because the realtor told me. Like, okay.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you gotta love these.
And just like you said too, Chris, the amount of bad deals you run into, the likelihood that there is even a deal there, I can tell you from gut instinct is probably like I'd say, I don't know what, 100th of a percent, like
Right.
0.01% the chance. And so I told the guy, I was like, look, I can't do anything until you get me this, this, and this. And he just kept coming back. He's like, hey man, like why don't here's my number. Call me. Let's talk like men. Let's not text like AI. And I was like, all right, bro. Look, we don't have anything to talk about. You don't have any underwriting. You don't have any calculators. You don't have any numbers. And Jessica was like, you gave up on the deal too quick. There might have been a deal there. She goes, looks through the purchase contract. She's running all the numbers. ARV is nowhere close to 480. Um, I think the ARV, whatever. Jessica, do you remember what you discovered? It was in the twos, I believe, but the rehab was going to be like 150.
Oh,
Um,
jeez.
and the purchase price was 130. So it's like, all right, guy, like, how am I supposed to help you here? Like, I would never lend on this. I wouldn't willingly put any of my lenders in on this. This is just not all around. It's just not a deal. And he just like some people they get emotional because this was his first deal. So he
Right.
kept asking. He was like, "Well, let's talk, let's talk, let's talk." I was like, "No, bro, there's nothing to talk about. Like that's it. It's done. Like move on. Next deal."
Right. Exactly. And that's something there too, because so many people they get so wrapped up in these deals, right? And now I've done quite a bit of this now too, that I myself have actually stepped back from being productive every day moving forward and calling and doing all these types of deals, because I started seeing the fact that I would go 7 days before I even came across something that was even feasible to even look at. And then in turn, all those 7 days I'm focused on trying to try to see something, trying to see those numbers, trying to see a deal. Oh, come on, yeah, like, hey, yeah, this year could work. Just like no, like you already look at it and you already know that it doesn't, and you're like, it's not gonna work, right? And so when I say that I've kind of stepped back a bit, is that I've kind of slowed down with that, and I've seen like a lot more active deals because of stepping back
Yep.
and just slowing it down, because when you're sitting there, you're trying. Um, so it's like, that thing, find all the red items in the room, right? And you're
Hmm.
looking for red, 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 red. And then all of a sudden it's just like, okay, now you're actively looking for that. But then all of a sudden they turn around and go, well, how many blue items did you see? Well, didn't see any. So now the principle of that is that when you slow down and you start looking at those blue deals, those blue items, you just start seeing them now more and more in those places. You start seeing them like, oh yeah, that's a deal. That's something. Yeah, okay, I'm cool. I'm interested. Like that's a blue. That's a blue. Yeah, oh, that's something there. And you're not forcibly digging through garbage trying to find it. It's just kind of weird. It's kind of weird like that. How you actually then It's like you're looking, but you're not.
It reminds me of, have you ever had to do the gorilla test, Chris?
Nuh-uh, what's that one?
So when I was forklift certified back in the day, that when you take the OSHA class, apparently it was originally used for motorcycle safety classes, but they ask you, it's two teams of 5 people each, and they're passing basketballs back and forth. Five have black shirts, five have white shirts, and they ask you to count, like, say, how many passes did the black shirts make? And so you're sitting there and you're hyper focused, you're staring at the screen, you're trying to count because they're moving pretty quick. And at the end of it, you can go on YouTube and you can find it too. And at the end of it, they ask you, "Did you notice the gorilla in the middle of
Oh
the track?"
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like the gorilla, and they go back and they rewind it. And if you watch the thing, you can tell that's an unedited video because if you go back and watch it from the beginning, but like you said, with that kind of zoomed out scope, you actually notice the gorilla. Uh,
Yeah, exactly. Just like that. Yeah, you actually didn't notice that gorilla. I know what you're talking about. I remember seeing that now. I just never heard it called that. But yeah, I did the forklift certification test too. I remember having to do that same thing too.
yeah,
But yeah, it's just that same thing. So like once you then know things that you're looking at, so it's just like nowadays, you go to like one of those real estate seminars, and you see nothing but new people there and like, oh wow, yeah, this and that. And you're just like, yeah, dude, like don't buy into this. All you got to do is go out and go do it. You're gonna
yep.
sit here and spend all this money on doing it on this class, learning and educating and all this stuff, being secluded and stuff, being safe over here. When you're ready to go do something, hey, yeah, I'm ready to go do something, but I don't have any money because I spent it all on this, right? It's better to just take that and go learn and go do it. Like, you have to get down and dirty. You have to go and do it.
Is that kind of what you did? Because you said you before we started rolling, you were teaching like people about acquisitions. So I'm guessing you probably learned by doing with the CRMs and found your true role as that integrator. Is that right?
Yeah. So I was going through and I was doing the real estate myself too. Number one, found out like first off going about this, you by yourself sucks. I did one deal straight up, start to finish, just like royally sucked. And so with that, I saw a lot of things that would happen, right? So number one, people that are trying to do this themselves are trying to generate all these leads. Well, then when they do get that one lead, they're hyper focused on that. Then they lose where everything else is because they're focused on that one lead and trying to make that happen and convert that deal. Well, they're forgetting about everything else. So they're just working on that one and then they lose everything else and then they're not generating anymore. So then they wind up losing traction. Then that one deal falls out. So then now they turn around and they got to go back and like restart everything up. But
Mm-hmm.
then even then though too, once you do get that first deal, then it's like going through the paperwork, the contracting, getting it through the title company. I had a title company next door, and oh yeah, and so quick heads up, this first deal that I did front to start to finish was in Illinois. So it's a attorney state. So I got to get an attorney, the seller's got to get an attorney, and then they got to go to court for it. Like it's just like really stupid stuff. And then the title company that was there was in the same county as the property, but they couldn't do the transaction. And all it was a simple seller financing transaction, right? They just couldn't do it. And it's just like all these headaches and hassles of having to go through it. And so I finally kind of gave up on it. And I took I made like $1,000, I think. I was gonna make a lot more, but I just took, found somebody else to come in and just hand that off to because like it just got such a fiasco and it was just like wasn't worth it. I was like, oh my goodness. So personally, if you got a deal in Illinois, I'm not doing it. I definitely ain't doing it. Like states like that, no. I know New York is one of them as well, so I stay out of there too. But like, yeah, going through and doing that, that there was my very first solo one, and I was in my only solo one that I did front start to finish. Never again. So then that's when I just started, keeping people in my books for being dispo people. Okay, great. I will gladly take this deal, that I can clearly make 10K on. Here you go, Adam. I'll give it to you. You cool with making 4K if you get rid of this? He's like, cool, you know. and he turns around and sells it. Saves me that headache and time and hassle. And then at the same time, he doesn't have to sit there and try to generate the leads because I just brought him the deal that all he's got to do is find the buyer. So doing that, that's when I started seeing that. And then back then, that's when my money flow was a lot lower itself. Knew a handful of people. Um, but then like nowadays, everyone's just a capital raiser. So like reach out and like touch someone and they know 10 other people too. So 10 people, they know 10 other people, 20 people right there.
Yep.
Capital's easy to come by now.
Yeah, nowadays it is between everybody wanting to be a connector, being a capital raiser, being, or capital liaison, I think is what most of them are calling it now. It's all the same, more
Yeah.
or less, right? Like they just like dispo people build their list of buyers and, you know, um, acquisitions people build their pipeline of sellers. Like those capital people, that's all they do is they just build huge pipelines of just potential lenders.
Right.
I just
So
got
yeah,
asked earlier today, and I ran into an old buddy of mine from like grammar school, and he does financial advisements now. And I was like, hey, so you don't happen to have anybody that's ever looking to invest in private placements, huh? And he was like, actually, yeah, I have some people that aren't accredited, but they usually have between 250 and like a couple million to invest. They're mom and pop investors. And I was like, I got you. Don't worry. I'll send you an
right.
email later.
Exactly. Yeah, and so like with doing that one deal myself itself, I did my first flips, sucked, and then I just got out of that because it was a matter of babysitting grown people, like telling them how to correctly do their job because they look at it like, it's good enough. So I'm like, no, I got tired of that and very, you know, very boring, like not boring. It was very, very exciting, but it was more babysitting than anything. And I just no, I got out of fix and flipping, doing complete guts and stuff like that. My very first property that I did do a fix and flip was I bought it for 174, like 170. 10K was a assignment fee on there, so I actually was getting it for 160, but with the assignment fee was 10K. 1,000 square foot property, had a 900 square foot garage. Don't know. And then had a 900 or no 700 square foot guest house as well, all on a half acre. So I took this, I had to do it in 3 phases. I took this property and I really learned a lot, and a lot. So with that first property, I had to go through and started doing the work on the first house, on the first step phase of the house that was actually there. Now, mind you, when I got this was a 2 bedroom, 1 bath house. Walk in, you have a bathroom. That's it. Exterior walls and a bathroom. No other walls in there.
Sounds like a
So I
car
don't know
guy's
what the two
dream.
bedroom, 1 bath was.
That's
There was
hilarious.
1 bath.
Like I said,
So
almost like
yeah,
a car guy's dream. Like we're just gonna have like this little kind of shithole house, but we're gonna have this big garage and we're gonna like restore a car in, and that's it.
right. It's just like, hey, yeah, I got a car, and you got like, a car. You're thinking like at least a rolling chassis. No, this was like straight up just the frame. Sitting there on cinder blocks. It's like this is not even a chassis. Like you don't have anything here. And so, like literally, not even the kitchen sink was there. There was no kitchen cabinets, no stove, no microwave, no fridge, no nothing. You could just see the gas line and stuff. You knew where the kitchen was. And so I had to go through there, and then I had skunks in there on the subfloors. And so I had to get somebody to come in and catch them. And they caught like a total of 80, or not 80, 8 skunks from underneath there. And they had to catch them and then go take them off to release them. I'm like, oh my goodness. And then I converted that garage, 900 square feet, into livable space. So that there came out to basically be a 1,900 square foot house. Because it was a matter of changing the garage or keeping it. And it was like, well, if I change up the garage, lose the garage, but the value to ratio there, I was going to make more on the whole house itself. So long story short, after everything was done, I wound up selling it for like 430, 450, and then I think I wound up putting about 130 into it. So really
Nice.
not bad. Made me cry, lost a lot of sleep. But I powered through it and I made it. Okay. That there was a very, very good learning experience. All the properties afterwards were just like I said, it was just babysitting the contractors. That's where it got stupid. I was like, ah. So I got tired of babysitting them and I moved on.
Yeah, and it sounds like like I said, you really found your niche, which is now
Yeah.
working with other integrators and visionaries, especially, and helping them get
Yeah.
organized on task. And I'm willing to bet that you having that experience in acquisitions, though, really gave you a special insight to better help them.
Yeah. So when I did that, and then I got into Pace's group there, it was, a matter of putting everything together because I was like at that time I'm like, I like doing this better because now I can kind of just create deals and stuff. I was still going to do fix and flips, did a few more, but then it was just like I just started getting away from them. And so then I started staying towards the acquisitions and acquiring them. And so then I started looking into systems and I started off with Podio. And, I was like, hey, well, like, what do I need? I started asking myself, what do I need it to do? Well, like
Hmm.
now, what do I need it to do? What do I need it to do? I needed to figure out that question because now if I'm getting more deals, I need to be able to get rid of them. And now it's just a matter of like, okay, what do I need this system to do? The CRM. And so then I got into Podio. Podio was cool, dabbled in that. Then I was like, hey, well, like this is like this, there's too much complexity in here, like I don't need this right now. I'm going to be spending all my time in building out this Podio. And so then I started looking into others, Monday, Asana, Trello, Wise Agent, Lion Desk, REI Pro, whatever that is. Yeah, REI Pro or whatever. Um, Agent CRM, like just a whole bunch of them, dude. Like, kid you not, like there's Keep, Integrity, Insight, HubSpot, you name it, I'd probably touch it. Pipe Drive, Pipeline, um, Pipe. If it had a pipe in it, I'd probably touch it there too. So it was a lot of doing that. And then I kind of can't, and that kind of started my journey on it because I was like, oh, this is cool, but this doesn't have this. And it was like, this is cool, but it doesn't have this. This one's cool, but it doesn't have this. And so then the number one thing that I came to really realize after about a year of going through and doing that was every CRM system sucks. Okay.
Hmm.
And I just say that it sucks. They're good. They really are. But why I say that they all suck, including mine, including mine, I'm going to include mine in there too, is because doesn't matter what you are, you're still going to have to build out. You
Yep.
will still have to build it out. In my system, dude, I build it out, have it built out for you because of my journey and the people that have come to me to have me help build their systems, right? Even knowing all that, I still can't provide Adam or Ivan or Jessica or Augie, anybody, the system that they need right from the start. So in turn, you're going to have to really understand what you need and what you want. And so then now it was just like I went back to the very basics. I was like, let's start out with Podio. Free version. Let's do this on the whole free side. And even on the free platform of Podio. And to this day, I still get some people that ask me about it too. Is I had workflows in just like not on the free side because it was still you didn't have the workflows and automations there. But the process and the way that the lead moved through there was start to finish was already before everyone was talking about the pipelines was already a pipeline process. And this is already back when people were spending 5, 10, $15,000 on a Podio. They'd still have come to me and say, hey, yeah, can you build mine out? Because I just spent 10 grand and like, I don't even know what all this other stuff does. I'm like, why would you do that? I don't know. It was just cool and everything. It said Podio and spent a lot of money and like it looked cool by doing it. And
Well, I
You
think too
know?
they get sold on the wishful thinking, right? Like they get sold on the like the bells and whistles and the sales talk and whatever and
Yeah.
um like you
But
said,
again, that there comes down to knowing what you need. So just like with the seller, talking to the seller, what do they need? You have to be able to provide to the seller what it is that they need. Hey, I can structure out this deal to work. I can build out the system to work. But guess what? If that system doesn't work for you, neither will that deal. That
yeah,
it will work for somebody else, but may not even work for you. So that's that's one of the downfalls of it, you know. So that's why like I do my system and it's like I build it out, I have it built out for you like 90% of the way, right? It's
and
a
you know what
Toyota
I tell them,
Corolla
Chris?
that you can still get around. Say
You,
what?
you know what I always tell them?
Huh.
The best CRM is the one that you'll actually use.
Right. You
Because
know,
more often than not, they get it for the bells and the whistles and the this and the that and the possibilities and the potential. But it's just like going on a date. Like if you have this really like high up on a pedestal expectation built up of about this guy or girl that you're going on a date with, you're always going to be disappointed because your
right.
expectations are not with reality. So I always tell people it's like go with the system that you have the bandwidth to learn. And you can,
Right.
especially if you can build out a little bit of it yourself, maybe get some help, but you don't need all the fancy shit
Right. Now I will tell you this. I will tell you this. When do you need a system? You need
yesterday.
it now. You need it now while you have one lead because you're going to have to learn how to manage it, how to move those leads, if you're a one man band, how to build it out, or even what your processes look like. Because even though we are all in the same business here, guess what? Burger King, McDonald's, they're in the same business. They're selling burgers and fries, right? Can't do the fries any different, but what do they try to do? Stand out from each other by with their burgers. McDonald's is a very, very strict process, an equal squirt of ketchup and mustard and uh, pickles and shake on onions, little things like that, right? But then now you go over to Burger King, they got fresh sliced tomatoes, fresh sliced onions, fresh lettuce, fresh full leaves of lettuce, and good stuff like that, right? They also, they're all frozen patties. I don't care. Even though Burger King is flame broiled, they're still frozen patties. But now instead of it going into a steamer or whatever, it's done on a flame broiler conveyor belt. That's it. That's the only way that they're heating it up with real flame versus nuking it. Okay.
Yep.
Still same thing. But what do they still do? They're still in competition. They still make money. They're still all in business, right? But they're still selling the same thing, just like what we're all doing here. So your process is slightly different than mine. Just like my system, might be like somebody else's system, but how does mine stand out or how does mine vary from theirs? What can I provide? What value and stuff like that? So, again, that's where it comes into what is it that you want? What is it that you need? Because you need a system today that you can start building on and knowing how that's going to work for you in the future. You have to, you
Yep.
know, you have to 100%. I don't care what it is when people say, "Hey, I don't have this." I know people that, because I did Excel spreadsheets. I did that for about a week. That didn't even last long, but it was about a week of like, well, here's all these leads, and they come in, and it's like, okay, well, great. Now I got to keep scrolling all the way down and doing this, and it's like, this is done. Like I'm already gone through a Google sheet. You got to see where you want to be, where you want your system to be in the future, like where you want it to go, and like you have to know that it can grow. So by doing that, you have to come into it and say, hey, I need something today, but something where I can expand on. And what I mean by, some simple things that I mean by expanding is there a limit to employees that you can have in the system? Is there a limit to how many customers you can have or potential leads, right? Is there a limit there?
Mm.
Well, if you have a limit of 500, you're going to be very limited, and then you're going to have to outgrow that or pay a lot more money to get the next stage up and stuff like that. I personally don't believe in those type of scenarios. Nowadays with everybody being able to have something, I just like to be able to help people out. So for me, people come to me to be able to help build out their systems. And I was
Mm.
doing it before I started off automation here. I was doing it for other people in their systems. This was not a dream of mine. It really wasn't. I actually fought my wife on it for about a year, and before I did do something. And so she's like, "You're good at this. Like, quit doing it for other people. But you should build out your own system, and then sell it to them." I'm like, I don't really want to. That wasn't really my montage. That wasn't what I was really trying to do. But I've always loved, um, like my background is automotive technicians. So I say technician because why did something happen? Why did this break? And I'm
Mm.
looking at what caused that to happen. I know that this is broken, but what caused that to happen? And if I put a new one in there, is it going to do that same thing to break that new one, that new component? And that's what I look at. So when I look at these systems and these build outs, it's not just, I'm not somebody on Fiverr where, hey, can give me some workflows? I can give you some workflows and like, just give you some copy and paste in their stuff. Like that's not a problem. But like, what is it that you want and what is it that you need? So people come to me and I do custom setups because, I interrogate them. I ask those questions. What are you looking for? Well, I just need a system that'll do this. Okay, great. Why? What are you trying to do? What do you need to do? What are you looking to do? What do you want it to do? Okay, when it does do that, then what? You know, and now it's just a matter of, okay, so you just want to get leads. Okay, great. What happens when those leads come in? Well, then we got to call them. Okay, well, like, how are you managing them? Well, so and so gets some of those and some of those and some of those. And like there was one team that I talked to, they said they just kind of come in and everyone just kind of comes in and picks out whatever leads they want. And I'm like, what? Like that's bad. Like, why? Like that already is like no structure. Like just they just go in there and grab whatever leads that they want. I'm like, why don't you just assign them? So it's like if you put a strategic pathway in for these things, then you have that process built in of what's supposed to happen. So
Mm.
essentially in my system and what I teach is that a lead comes in. Doesn't matter whether somebody that called in or came in from a forum or Facebook, Instagram, or wherever, or manually added in. Doesn't matter. That there's a couple things that have to happen. Number one, it has to get assigned to somebody. Number two, it has to get a tag. Number three, it's got to have a note. It's got to be notified of like like how it came in. I got to know how it came in. And then number four, I got to get notified. So I
Mhm.
need those four things to happen. And so on any one of my workflows that are in inbound, something that comes in, that happens. Even if it's somebody that calls in, that even just a random number that comes in, and then that gets multi assigned to different people throughout the company. And it's
Yeah.
like it does that. It's you know, number one, there should not be a lead that's not moving in your system. And what I mean by moving is that it should always be doing something. It should be in motion somewhere. It should be queued to be called. It should be queued in a follow-up. It should be queued in a task. It should be in a workflow somewhere at some point, right? Because something needs to happen with that, as well as following up with the task on that. There needs to be a task on there too. So those five things right there, assigning, tagging it, noting it, notification, and then yeah, notifying. I think that was the fifth one there. So yeah, having all that there happen, that's number one that happens for any lead that comes in. It has to.
Right.
If you got leads sitting in a system that aren't moving, they're dead because they're got nothing that happens. Like I do things where the lead will come in, people will put it in a follow up. Okay, great. Then it disappears. removes it out of the pipeline and stuff. Why? Because they don't need to see it. If it's like a month down the line, hey, give me a call here in 2 weeks, a month, it removes it from them, right? From their pipeline. So they don't see it. And then sometime beforehand, like 3 days beforehand, it'll pop back in that pipeline. Notify that assigner that lead is now due active in 3 days. And then that day of it notifies again. It says, "Dink, hey, this task is due today for this lead." And so, like, now you know what's happening every single day. Those leads are just coming in and just happening, So, in turn, I try to make it as automated as possible because we want those leads to just again keep moving. If they're not in motion, if they're not in process, if they're not doing something, like it's dead.
Oh, dude, totally. And you said something earlier, which I think is kind of hilarious because I just thought about this. Like the EOS guys, they probably should have, instead of calling it integrators, they probably should just call it interrogators. Because it feels like we always, bro, we have to take the visionaries and like pull their asses, like their heads straight out of their asses. In fact, that's actually how I met Jessica. Was we were on Jesse Stanton's Zoom several months ago, and her and Fiona Wang were both like, "Well, I was told I'm a visionary, but I think I might be more of an integrator." And I'm sure you know Jesse. Jesse's very, very visionary. So like
Yes.
listening to him try and describe what an integrator was, I like raised my hand. I was like, "Jesse, you want me to come up there and help you out a little bit?"
It's like
And
what you're not.
yeah, I was like, "Here, bro." I said, let me talk to them." I was like, "Jessica, Fiona, this is what an integrator does." And because similarly, right, like I'm a different kind of integrator, and that's something that you and I had a deeper discussion on your channel a couple nights ago. But
Yes.
I have to do the same thing. I have to come in, I have to break systems, I have to ask a lot of questions. I'm more of an operations integrator, whereas you're more of a systems integrator. And because I enjoy working with the people. To me, the people are the systems. Like, getting into the nitty gritty of, like you said, the diagnosis and does the system work? Is it doing the tagging? Is it notifying people? It
Right.
frustrates me, but I have a little bit more leniency when I'm working with people because the people can at least talk back.
Right. Yeah, that's where again, like when I do systems build outs and stuff, people are like, "Hey, can you build out this workflow?" I'm like, "Yes." What do you want it to do? Well, what do you mean what do I want it to do? So, when this happens, what do you want to have happen? I don't know. What's your intention of doing anything with this lead? Oh, well, we want to call him. Okay, who's this getting assigned to? What do you mean who's it getting assigned to? And it's just like, okay, well, it should be getting assigned to somebody. Somebody needs to be notified that this new lead came in and they need to call on it, right? Or do
Mhm.
you want to sit there and call up your whole team all the time and just say, hey, yeah, you got this lead to call. Like you might as well be doing it yourself. I'm like, automate, and that's what I do with everything. Now, it's not that, automate the whole process, like, get into the point of using voice AI to call the leads to try to structure the deals and have them converse with the voice AI, no, like I 100% do not agree with that. Um, if you needed to call and collect up some information, yeah. But to sit there and try to structure these deals, no. If I'm talking to an AI person, or an AI bot, then um like I'm just giving basic information. And I know when I'm talking to them because I will sit there and I'll trip it up and stuff and they sound pretty good, yes, but like you can tell when they're saying things wrong and stuff like that. So I can trip them up like that and but I mean, still though, you're structuring a deal. You're making a business transaction. Why do you want to sit there and try to take your hands all the way off that thing for that to happen? Now, somebody puts money into a soda machine. Somebody
Mhm.
puts their $1.50 in for a soda machine, and then and then automation can happen to spit out that soda. 100%, yes. But like if we're sitting there needing to, negotiate and talk deals and about that, hey, I don't really have $1.50, but I am thirsty. But like, hey, here's what I'll do is, dude, this the soda machine's like really got all the stuff on here.
Give
How
me a
about,
quarter a
for a
month.
soda, I'll clean it up, stuff like that. You can't do that. It's money in, you get out a product, right?
Yeah.
Talking to these sellers, you can't do that with AI. I'm sorry. It's just like it gets to the point, hey, are you interested? Yes. Okay, great. I'm gonna have one of my team members reach out to you, right?
Yep.
And then you gotta have a real person come in. Like you
And
can do all
similar,
that AI beforehand, but the whole discussion has got to be a real person.
yeah, and similarly, like I have to do the same thing. I have to come in and be like, well, what roles and responsibilities does each person have? Like, what systems do you have in place? What's automated? What's not automated? And oftentimes they'll be like, well, this is executive support, but they do some marketing stuff, and marketing does some executive support stuff, and client care, well, they do a little bit of everything. And I'm like, oh no, 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 no. So, and then I get on the meetings with each individual team member, which is another key difference here, right? Like you being in systems, like you're not looking to meet with all the team members. You have one point of contact, like they bring you their gripes and you're like, I can fix this.
Yeah.
But for me, I have to meet with the team and find out like what are their gripes. So that's how I diagnose it. And there was a couple meetings where I was like, so is any of this like standardized? And they were like, no. I was like, so hold on. I said, so do you know like how long of a call to book whether they buy this package versus that package? And they were like, no. And I was like, is it you have SOPs? Is it in the SOPs? I don't know. I can't find it because Dropbox isn't searchable. Or it is, but it doesn't yield very good results. And I'm like, "Ah, okay. All right. So we're starting from the ground up, right? Because that's what it felt like. They like all their internal communications was in email. And that's just it's a recipe for disaster.
Right. Yeah.
Like you're saying, it takes like you have to probe and ask questions. Like the other day when we had a team meeting, they were like, hey, our inventory management system's broken. And I was like, what do you mean it's broken? They're like, well, we're supposed to have 13 XL shirts for men, and we don't have any. But we have 200 shirts, but there's no XL for men. Okay. Well, what system are you using? Well, we're using a spreadsheet. Are you okay? Well, here's the next question. Are you using the spreadsheet? Um, well, it says there's 13 in there. Like, yeah, I know. I understand that. But if you're not using the spreadsheet, if you're not updating it, like if you're not using the CRM, you're not updating it, you're not running your leads through it from start to finish, like guys, a system you don't use is worthless. If you have a system you don't use, then you don't have a system. It's
Right.
just simple.
And that's why because these systems nowadays are, so complex, there's a lot to do in there. It's
Yep.
like when I talk to them, it's like, what do you need it to do? What do you want it to do? What's your goal that you're trying to accomplish here with it? What is it that you're wanting it to do in your business? And there's I built them out for teams of 30 where like there's been different divisions, and it's like, okay, hey, great, once they get done here, then it gets sent over, they push this button and it goes over here to this next department. you know um hey, this deal is ready for TC. Great. Do you have an in-house TC, somebody on your team that's doing the TC work, or are you having to outsource it? Oh yeah, we outsource it. We send it off to Jessica. Okay, great. Well, hey, how about this? How about we go through and we talk to Jessica, find out what her criteria is on everything, what she needs, for you to send over so she could say, okay, and start writing up all the paperwork, right? What does she need? And let's find that out and put that together in an email. And like, let's make it easier for Jessica so she doesn't have to try to come into the system and stuff. And so you
Mhm.
don't have to try to send her this lead and this and that. Like, let's just make out that template, right? So then of what Jessica needs, and now we can go through and go, okay, these fields are all filled out. Once these fields are all filled out with something, then this can be sent off just by clicking TC, and it'll automatically send that off. Now, guess what? Automation. you're doing your job, but before Jessica gets it, instead of her coming back and be like, yo, where are the comps? Like there can be a checklist put in place as to, are the comps there? Is this field filled out? Yes or no? If yes, well then great, then send it. If not, then don't send it. It won't send. Right. And so being able to do that kind of stuff, number one or two, makes your job, the company's job, a lot easier because you're staying more organized. And two, it's going to keep your partner, the Jessica that's doing the TC work, organized too. She's not going to have to come back and like look at this like what we do with those shitty deals and go, yeah, hey, 250 for the purchase price, 100 for the rehab, and 340 for the
Underwater on
ARV. And you're
yeah,
like,
underwater on
wait,
the ARV.
yeah, it's like, wait, you're 10,000 under on the AR on the overall price. Like, how does that work? So it saves a lot more of that stupidity time. If it doesn't have all the information, Jessica's not going to receive it, and you're not ready to send that deal over. You're not ready yet. And it's just things like that, putting those types of things in process.
Hey Chris, Ivan's got a really good one, and I know my answer will definitely differ from yours. So he said, "What is the one thing people overlook or just don't take advantage of with a CRM?" And I would say, as far as the things that they overlook the adaptability with their team. More often than not, like I said in the beginning of this, they look at like this is the fanciest CRM, this can do the most, but they have no willingness or desire to learn it, and B, neither does their fucking team. So then they're just up shit's creek either way. Um, and
Right.
so I would say that they just don't take advantage of the simplistic ones. Like there's plenty of them out there that anybody could learn. Um, but they all get overlooked and in favor of the big shiny object, expensive AI involved chatbots, dialers, whatever is already quote unquote hooked up. But I
Right.
mean, I guess how do you see that, Chris?
Um, I kind of see that as like your first car. I'll put it this way. Okay, I'm gonna age myself. I'm 46. I'm Gen X, man. Like back then, we got a piece of shit car. We were cool. We had a car. Like that was it. We were cool. Didn't really matter what. And that's kind of like just having a CRM. You're like, yeah, man, I got a system. I got a CRM. Like you got a CRM. You got a system, and it's just like, okay, yeah, I got a car. And you got like a little Toyota Prius. It's like that's not really a car. That's not a car. A car was like a 77 Monte Carlo with the T tops. SS like that was a car. But like you get a Toyota Prius, you get a little shitty $200 Chevy Cavalier. Hey, yeah, man, I got a car. And it's like, yeah, dude, that's not a car. And so like what I mean by that too is that like you get a car, everybody thinks that, oh, I have a car, I have a vehicle, I have this. And it's like they don't understand the differences in them. And what I mean by that is like, they got a Toyota Prius and they need to go get a pallet of block. Well, that doesn't work. Well, what? I got a tow hitch on there and I can hook up a trailer. That trailer is not going to be able to carry that pallet, and that car is not going to be able to pull that.
Right.
So, no, you don't have the capabilities of doing that. So people don't understand what is needed or required about this stuff. And that's why I say like industry standard itself is generally, a tidbit. Industry standard is about 4 to 6 months of a daily continual usage of one system to even have a good judgment if it's going to be feasible for you or not. That's typical because think about it. I'm in systems. I know what I'm looking for. I know what to ask. And as being a technician, I also know other things that are, can prematurely cause a problem and things like that. But again, it takes time to know that. But then you also have to know who you got to ask to get those kind of results. And so then with that, you have to understand like, okay, if I'm going to go get a pallet of block, my Toyota Prius is definitely isn't going to do that. But what do I need?
You
So
need
now
to
again, yeah. So then let's just say even a Dodge Dakota with a trailer. Okay, that's even a lot better than your little Toyota Prius on a little 1-inch ball trailer hitch. Like that's where that there sucks. So same
Right.
thing with the systems. People are like, hey, I just need a system. Oh, I'll just do Excel sheets. Okay, great. That's if you're doing it by yourself on a manual process, yes. If you're looking for absolutely free, yes. Can it be done? Yes. Will it be done? Yes. A lot more headaches, a lot more, issues itself. But if that's what you have to do, you can do it. You can still make deals. But here's the thing, doesn't matter what you're doing, you're still gonna have to put in an investment. And number 2, most people need a system yesterday, because by the time they need to upgrade, they've already got too many leads and too much processes for the system. So now they gotta move on to something else and try to learn that new item yesterday, but they're doing it today when they really need till tomorrow to figure that out. And people just don't understand that. So yes, it does, you have to understand what you're doing and get that, be able to match that. Know that what you're going to be doing, where you're going to be going, right? Okay, I know I'm going to go get a pallet of block, so I know that my Toyota Prius. You don't have to know exactly for sure, but you got to know that you got to have something different
Oh yeah.
because you've got to know that that's not going to work.
I'd be curious too. Are there any like features or anything that you think are slept on right now with CRMs?
Um, Features that are slept on are I mean, dude, like even today, man, I still see so many people that don't even utilize their calendars. They're not even utilizing their calendars properly. They're not utilizing their follow-up process correctly, and it's just like and what I mean by that is like, okay, hey, cool, I'll follow up with you in like 2 weeks, and then they forget about putting it on their calendar. And then guess what? Then that never happens. And then like a month goes by and then they remember about that lead and then they go back and do that. So they don't have processes either. They don't have a systematic process. And so
Yeah.
like that's what I've always tried to do. I worked with Mr. Nunez there on a system there before too, and it was a very systematic process. I mean, I you know it was a matter of like, "Hey, this happens, you do this," and then it's going to reset and remind you. And like, I mean, he'll attest to this too. So even then, like I said, me talking to somebody that needs a system, what do you want it to do? How big is your team? Because Ivan can even attest to this too. I built the system out where the lead would come in, notify Ivan, new lead has come in. You now have 24 hours. And if something didn't happen, if they didn't do something, they didn't make a phone call, they didn't make a text, they didn't make a note, they didn't update a certain field, right? If that didn't happen, something didn't happen, it would get reassigned. It would remove them and get reassigned to the next person in line. And I know because Ivan had turned around and he goes, because I got called on support and they were like, "Hey, dude, this lead just came into me, and like it's not there." I'm like, "When did it come in?" He's like, "Yesterday." I'm like, "What do you mean? And it's not there now?" He's like, "No." And I went in there and looked at it, and it had gone through that workflow, and so it had already gotten assigned to him. I go, "You didn't call them?" Like, "Well, I know I was going to do that today." I'm like, "Yeah, but that's the whole process. You had 24 hours."
Yep.
And you didn't make that call. So guess what? It got reassigned. And he's like, wait, what? And so it's like, hey, 24 hours to make contact. Hey, 12 hours remaining to make contact. And like still didn't do anything. Guess what? That lead's getting reassigned to somebody else. And he was just like, dude, like, what are you doing? And it's like, now that person that I built it out for was just like, oh my goodness, like I love that, you know? And because like for me, it's like, hey, the creativity that I can put into these systems and have built out, you have to have that mind of creativity. So like again, I say, what happens when a lead comes in? Uh somebody calls on it. Okay, what do you mean somebody? Well, I go through and I assign it to somebody. Well, why are you doing that? Why not automate that?
Yep.
We can do it like this. Oh, wow, okay. Okay, that's cool. And then it's like, hey, yeah, we can do this and this. No, 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 we'll just do the assignment for the time being. And then now, also too on Ivan's team there too, was that it was they would come in and then they would sit there. They wouldn't stay up on top of their leads. This lead had been sitting there for like 5 days. Nobody had called it. Okay, so now guess what? We're gonna start going through. So then now I started having people come to me and be like, yo, I don't want these leads sitting here. Great. Let's give them 24 hours. It'll cycle through two other people, so it'll be a total of three people. One, two, and three people. If it comes and then on the fourth one, it's gonna go to you. So on the fourth one, Adam, that lead's gonna go to you. If you're getting that lead, that means that it's already gone through three other people and never got touched. Now you know that you're pissed because you shouldn't be getting those leads.
Right.
Because
You
I
should
set
be
it up
getting
where,
any leads.
yeah, hey, this lead has come around. If you're receiving this lead, it's because it's been through three other people. And now you're just like, whoa, this is up, right? Because
Right.
there's
And
that
then
history right there of everything that's happened.
right, and it makes sense that you would put somebody like if I was on that team, I'd probably be like an operations manager. So you would put somebody like me as that fourth, fifth, sixth person to contact. Because like you
Yeah.
said, even if a single lead gets to me, it's a really big deal. And then I gotta have sit down with the entire team. We gotta have a nice little come to Jesus talk.
Right. And so now doing that there has made other businesses be like, whoa, like that is utterly like mind blowing.
Hmm.
And like it's funny because they don't realize it now. It's like, yeah, dude, I'll do this. I could do this, and this for you. Oh, no, 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 we don't need all that. All of a sudden they're like, man, dude, like I need help. I'm losing out on all these leads. And that's where it's like, great. And that's where I do the custom, the custom managing of people's systems where they will come in and I will manage their system, build out the workflows, do this custom work and custom automations like that. And again, this is where I'm coming into your system, Adam, and taking that last 10% and making it yours. All the other 90% of the stuff is what you're always going to be using anyways, the follow-ups, the workflows, things like that, right? But now that other 10% is going to be like, dude, like, I don't want to lead left behind. I don't want this happening. Okay, great. What problems are you facing? Dude, these guys are just slacking off on all their leads and stuff. Okay, great, cool. It's gonna come in, and I'm gonna tell you what has to be triggered, what has to be done for that lead for it to not be cycled. You can tell them if you want to, but like if they know, like, oh yeah, all they got to do is just text them and like it'll happen, it'll be good. No, like it's like something specifically has to happen, like a call status or something like that, or a follow-up date, whatever it is, because I've made a bunch of them. So by doing that, you then know about that. So then now we would sit there and discuss what it is that you want to have happen. And you're like, dude, like, yeah, if they don't make that call, I want to know. Okay, great. So if they don't make a call, then it's going to cycle on to the next person. So it doesn't matter if they text them, but hey, first off, we want you to call them. It's a lead that came in from a website they visited or a chatbot, whatever that they visited, and like they need immediate attention. And like 24 hours later, they still haven't got you hadn't picked up the phone to give them a call. Like, come on. It's like all you got to do is just do an outbound call. And if you don't even make an outbound call for that person and they're in that workflow, guess what? It's not even going to happen.
Yeah. And
So
then
that now it's just like, I know you didn't even call him. Well, yeah, yeah, I did. No, you didn't. You didn't even call him. You just sent him a text. Well, yeah, I did text him. Yeah, but you didn't pick up the phone like you're supposed to.
here's a good one for you too, Chris, because I see this a lot, so I'm sure you see it more. How many teams do you see get bogged down with like useless overhead and just system overlaps? Like I find this part hilarious. They'll have systems that overlap with each other. Like in my case, it was Google Drive and Dropbox. It's like, why are you paying for both?
Right.
But and I'm sure because usually where there will be overlaps what ends up happening is they still leave gaps. Like there's all other systems that they could be dedicating that money towards that would fill the rest of the gaps and make their entire operation much smoother. So I'm guessing you probably see that a hell of a lot too.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. There's seeing a lot of that too is, they just want to use DocuSign. Well, they're spending, 60K, $60 a month on DocuSign. It's like, dude, like are you really sending out that many contracts? Are you getting that many signatures and stuff? Well, no. How many realistically? Well, we're maybe sending out 5. Okay, why do you need DocuSign and you're wasting $60 a month on that, right? We'll just keep it simple. You're wasting $60 a month on that. Why do you have to have the 60K or the $60? Well, because it's what we want to use. Okay, well, you don't have the quantity to be able to be sending out and to be utilizing like that. So don't, save yourself. Use a lower down version, a lower tier or something like that. Or because you are only doing that, like, hey, guess what? We have a TC. We're going to use Jessica as our TC. Do I actually then need that? No. Especially if all I'm going to do is just send out a letter of intent. That doesn't need to be a signable document because Jessica is going to be putting together the contracts to send out there.
Yep.
So like, yeah, like why do they need, they'll sit there and hyper focus on some things. Why? Just because everybody else has it.
I was gonna say, or they'll go pay for the software, like you said, because of either name recognition or brand recognition. Like HelloSign's free, but they'll get DocuSign just because.
Yeah. And it's just like they do it and then they just get lost. It's like, well, no, we got to have this. It's like, dude, why? Like, are you sending out that many contracts? Well, no. Okay. Like an offer letter is just an email.
Yeah.
So what are you doing with, like if you don't even have the TC and you're going to do it yourself, still great. Use Hello Sign, or Sign Now. There's a bunch of them where you get like 3 to 5 a month for free, you know? Oh, I'll even do you one better. DocuSign, no, DocHub. It's a Google setup, right? If
Yep.
you have the business account, if you have the business account, so that like for me is Chris at propertyoptions developments.com.
Yep.
If you have that, it is $50 a year for unlimited documents, load up all your templates and print and fill, do that. But what's even better than that now is even Podimation here has it in there where you now have documentation signability within the system. So now we'll go through and take your contracts, even if you want to send them out like that and just get, signatures on anything that you want, we can set them up in your system and where they're being sent out automatically for
No,
that,
most people don't even know that like they're building it into the hardware now too. Like I'm running
That's
this
what
on
I
a
mean.
MacBook. The PDF viewer that I have on my MacBook Air, which is a 2022, has the ability, like it has my signature saved. So when Chris sends me a document I need to sign, I
Yep.
just click the button that looks like a signature, and then I just move it to the line, and then I resize it to where it looks appropriate. And guess what? I email it right back to Chris in a PDF, and it's signed. And I would
Yep.
not be surprised if Windows has that too, or if they're coming out with it soon.
Well, guess what too? Uh, so you can take a document just like this paper document, iPhone itself, and I know you can with Android, but I'm on a iPhone. You just from your home screen and you hold down the what is it, your note button right there, and
Mhm.
you actually just hold it down and it'll pop up with a small window and it'll ask you to scan documents. You click that, you scan documents, and then you can sign it electronically right there and then do what you just talked about right there. And then it pops on there, you click save and then turn around, re-email it right back. Yep, looks good. And that's just right there from your phone. Now, granted that there does not even have an audit trail itself, but the new system, the new signature series that's inside Podimation here itself does actually have an audit trail. So that's what's cool now too, is that we actually have the audit trail on there. So now you can actually send it off, get signatures. You can see when it was open, signed, how long it was, how long they've been doing everything for. So you can go through and see all that. So like I even have it down now where if somebody submits, bless you,
Thank you.
where somebody submits will submit a JV lead to me, a potential lead, and I'll turn around and once they fill out that form, it takes their information, inputs it into that template, that document, the signed document template, and then it emails that off to them, and then they just sign it, sign their signature, and then I get it right back. And guess what? Now I have an official signed document from that JV partner. So Adam, you send me that lead, and like immediately all through automations. I don't do anything, but you fill out the form and submit the information that I'm asking for. Turns around, you get this email document with your signature and with the details of that property that you just sent me and what our split is. And now guess what? Like that already happened. I still haven't had to touch anything. And then now also then too, like now that it's in the system and it's in the pipeline, as I work that lead down the pipeline, I don't have to worry about remembering to try to give you a call. All I do is as I move the lead down the stage pipeline, guess what? It's keeping you updated. Hey, when I move it from one stage to another, say, send them an email about this. When I move it over here, send them another email about this. As I keep moving it down, guess what? Keeps doing that automatically. And I don't have to worry about keeping up with you. And you don't have to worry about keeping up with me because it does that automatically.
Yeah, dude, it's beautiful. And like you said, having that audit trail is great, but guys, also just start where you are. You don't have to start with anything all that crazy. And like I said, just don't get brainwashed into all the other stuff. Like I'd asked that question right away. Like I was like, y'all are using Jot form. Why are you doing that when you're paying this much for G Suite? Because I had found out their G Suite bill was like $181 a month. I was like, you only have like 4 people on your team. This doesn't even add up.
Right.
There's a couple of redundancies there. So one is they're paying 2160 per month for the users, but they're not utilizing shared drives. It's like, all
Right.
right, so either we need to reduce, the per bill per user per month here, or we need to do one other thing, which is get rid of all these other useless emails and then just assign them as aliases. So that way, when you email connect@whatever.com, it goes to Chris,
Yeah.
you know, because Chris can have chris@podimation.com. Chris could also have info@podimation.com and connect@podimation.com and sales@podimation.com, and they can all forward to the original one.
Exactly.
Guess what, guys? That's free.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, perfect example, dude. Like as much as I like Zoom, I love it. I like it. I do actually think that it is, cleaner in the sense and better than Google Meets. But guess what? I've already got the business suite of it, the G suite of it, and I've got a 2 terabyte storage. And guess what? With that tier, I get I think 500 people, and I still get to record everything. So like, why would I utilize anything else? I can do
Yeah.
the same setup. You and me are set up on, or highlighted on the same stage and everything. Like, does the same thing. It's just one's Google and one's Zoom. You know. But like, hey, that's why I don't utilize Zoom because I also don't have Dropbox or anything. I have my Google. I just put it all there. And it's all centralized. I don't need to recklessly be spending any other money anywhere else, you know. Um, screen recording stuff like for making all my training videos and stuff. You know, if that's all that I'm doing, I also don't need to be spending $15 a month on Loom to have the unlimited plan. Ooh,
Mhm.
guess what? There's other stuff out there. This great one I'll let you guys know of is called Adilio, Adilio or something like that. Adilo. Yeah. .com. And it's been phenomenal. Like I have unlimited storage on that, and guess what? I paid like a lifetime fee of $60. Like, and I've got over 300 videos on there.
Yeah. And it's like,
Unlimited time and everything, so I just go through, and then I can also utilize that too to take any sort of videos, like, I could take this recording and upload it to there too, and then I can get a, a web link for it or an embed code, so I could, take that, put that in my emails, and, like, guess what? It goes off, and it's just now embedded in the emails and stuff, so that's what's great. You can take it as a code and put it onto YouTube as well. So, like, there's a lot of stuff that you can do with that. I mean, dude, $60. Yeah, I came across that thing like about a year and a half ago. That thing's
yep.
been awesome. That thing's well paid for itself.
And look, guys, we're not telling you not to pay for any systems at all. Like, we're not telling you
Right.
if the system legitimately has something that you need over, something else, then yeah, by all means, like, go for it. Like, I guess the case you could make for Loom is now that they have Loom AI, you can generate your SOPs directly from the transcripts of your videos. So
Exactly.
if that's something you really, really need and Adilio does not have that AI component, then use it. Like, nobody's telling you not to.
Exactly.
But
And that
don't
is,
be
that is
reckless.
true. Yeah, that is true. That is a good point. Adelio doesn't have that. But at the same time, it can write out the SOPs for you. But at the same time, I also use what is it? Tango and something else for screen recordings. So it actually does the PDF printout itself
Mhm.
with like places to go on the screen and like what to type in and stuff. And so it'll actually screenshot where your cursor is and everything. So you can sit there and show like computer, instructional videos of like, yeah, you go here and then go here and then here, and then people understand. Like, that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different tools out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's finding the tools that you will use, right?
Yes.
That's important. Like, if you're too flustered and frustrated with going back and forth between Adilio and Tango, then yes, use Loom. But if you can, because every person's different. But if
Right.
you can stomach it and you're like, okay, well, it makes more sense for us to not spend recklessly, which is, I think, most businesses' problems in the first place. Like,
Right.
they just spend, 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 spend. They have no idea what's coming in. They don't even know how much money they're making every month. They're just, well, this is how much we spend. Like, my team that I'm working with right now, I don't think they even have a rough idea of what their cost per employee is per month on their softwares. She
Oh,
said
geez.
it the other day in the meeting, and she was, by my calculations and by her calculations, like, she was way off. She projected, she's like, oh, I think we're spending like $500 per user per month between all of our softwares. And I was like, you're probably at like 250.
Yeah, see, that was my big thing too. There was a couple systems back in the day where, when texting was still really outbound texting was really available. This was back in the COVID times, and one system was like 7 cents a text message,
Yep.
and then there was REI reply that was 8/10 of a penny. I'm like, well, see, do that. I can, 14 cents to say, hey, are you looking to sell your house? Hey, fuck off. I'm like, shit, that's 14 cents. Or do I want to spend a penny and a half to have that same situation happen? And I
Right.
can still do that a lot more. I can still reach out to another 6 people from that, from that cost. It's like, certain things, and it's just still doing the same thing. It's still sending out a text message. It's still doing what the other one's doing. One's charging a hell of a lot more than one. So, but like, dude, I even broke it down. I did this one video, one a training video. This was between 3 different ones: batch leads, REI reply, and God, I don't even remember the third one. But and I base it off of spending $250 a month,
Mm-hmm.
system and texting, for that whole thing, right? Now, then I went through and I looked at the variables that I could change, right? And the one system did not have any variables except for what tier plan you were going to purchase. which then at that time, it wasn't the low end, but I was like, hey, let's just go right here in the middle and we'll utilize 250 as a number all the way across, right? And so then I did that, and that first system was just like completely kaput. Like you would get maybe like 1,500 messages, and then the next system that I went, and that was both back and forth. Then the next one was batch leads, and at that time it was like $100 for the system, and then to send out all the other messages, was a ridiculous amount. And then it was like, okay, then I found REI reply, 8/10 of a penny. Then at $250 a month, it came out to be purchase of the system, of utilizing the system and everything else. What could you actually do? And it was like 25, no, it was like 1,200, 12,500 messages, right? Pretty much right down in the middle. That's receiving and sending. So I broke it down. It was like, hey, you're going to be sending out, but like you're paying for receiving too. So well, if you send out 25,000, you're going to be receiving 25,000. So now you're at 50,000, in which that's going to blow your budget there. So that's not going to happen.
Right.
So then it was like, okay, Twilio is 8/10 of a penny, because then you're utilizing Twilio pricing, because that's what REI reply was doing. And then that's also what batch leads was utilizing too. But batch leads was charging 7 cents a penny per text message, right? It didn't even wasn't based on what Twilio is. Then then I found that there is a sister version of Twilio, which is called Plivo. So if you can find a system that can accept Plivo, dude, this is gold. This one is gold. I don't think you've heard that. Have you heard of Plivo before, Adam?
No, not at
Okay.
all.
So Plivo is basically a sister company of Twilio. Twilio itself is 8/10 of a penny for text messaging,
Mhm.
inbound or outbound. Calling out is 1.2 pennies, and inbound is 8/10 of a penny. So we'll just keep it at a penny. And so that's calling. Get this. Plivo, half a cent outbound, free
Mhm.
inbound,
Yeah.
free inbound.
So it reduces your shit so dramatically.
So now all I got to do is just calculate, look at what I was paying outbound. So now if I did that, dude, that was like 30,000 outbound text messages that I could do with that with that
Well,
250.
I was gonna say, so let's hit on that, because if you're doing a blended average of a penny on Twilio, and you're doing half a cent out, you said half cent outbound, free inbound.
Yep.
Guys, what you're not realizing is what Chris just said, right? A penny inbound, a penny outbound. That's
You're
two
already
pennies,
at 2 cents.
right? Whereas you're at 5 cents, so that's a 75% reduction in something that's
Yes.
already cost effective.
Yes, exactly. And yet the calling on that too was still the same price as a text message. So, but there's not very many systems that'll use Plivo, and Plivo is pretty strict on their business setup, getting set up on there. So there was I can't even remember the name of the system that I was using that I utilized that. But man, it was, once I found that, I was like, dude, like that was gold, dude. I was like, dude, like that was awesome. And like, this is how I look at my systems. Like before I made the change, I'm like, this is how I look at it. This is why I do 7 cents down to half a penny,
Yep.
outbound only. Because man, like now you take one inbound, one outbound on batch leads. That's 14 cents. And then you get half a cent outbound. So that means that I could send out 28 messages outbound and get told to F off, versus twice, or versus once, because in and out
Mhm.
with the 7 cents. So I'm like, that there's way much more value. Even if I have to use a different system, even if I have to utilize a little bit more of a different process for that, like that's still more valuable. Like, what are you doing? That's where I look at things like, what are you utilizing? It's texting. It's doing the same. It's doing the same. There's no difference in texting. Texting from your phone is still the same thing as texting from your computer, as by utilizing automation for sending out your texting. It's still going out, it's still going across the carriers. Everybody's still counting it. It's still coming from somewhere.
And what I've noticed too, Chris, with all this is like the reckless spending part on the business owner's part is usually for the most frivolous reasons too. Like when I asked them why they're using Jotform and they're thinking about switching from Jotform to Typeform, and I'm like, you still have to pay for either or both. Like, why don't you just use Google Forms since you already have G Suite? Oh, well, it doesn't look aesthetically pleasing enough. And it's like I know businesses that are eight figures that still use Google Forms.
Oh, I know.
It's aesthetically a pleasing enough for them. I think you'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and now, that's something else too. So they're using Jotform. Let me ask you a
Mhm.
quick question. What CRM are they utilizing? What central system are they utilizing?
Oh, that's easy. They're not.
So they don't even have anything there. So they're
Yeah.
not even so they're not even utilizing. Okay. Okay. So here's this. So here's this one.
I know when
Did
Chris
you
runs his
know?
eyes. I know this is the sign.
Yes. So did you know I have made a free 100% free inbound reception system with using Google and the Google Sheets and the
No.
Google Forms. Did you know that within the Google Sheet, you can attach a Google form to that? So that now when somebody fills out that Google form, those fields and everything automatically populate and correlate to
Yeah.
Google Sheet?
That part I knew. I've done that. In fact, when I
Right,
first got into Sub2, I made like a PML PMP form for for lender intake, and I also made a borrower submission form for borrower deals.
right.
That's what I did. I just did Google Forms to Google Sheets, but it amazes me because, like I said, these people, it's all just ego decisions, guys. Like this is like how aesthetically pleasing it is. Now, Chris has asked me before, like if we use the calendar in our CRMs, and I told him no, but that's because we use the calendars in our project management. But I'm actually planning on linking via Make, actually, like our project management software to our CRM, which is gonna, you know,
Yeah, and if you do something like that too, that's great.
yeah. But we had a specific reason, right? Like Google Calendar is great and you can do a lot. And I just found out recently that Google Calendar you can now add tasks to, which makes it semi-similar to what we use, which is Motion. However, Motion allows me to manage all of my Google calendars and my iCloud calendar all in one place. It puts those events on my iCloud calendar so I have them readily accessible on my phone, and it allows us to do projects, booking, task management as well.
Now it's funny that you say that about, you know, it's kind of reverse of of what I do with my calendars. Is because I connect all my calendars to one primary one, which is my business calendar. And so I connect my personal and my other account calendars to my one personal. And now I just utilize my one personal, and then my iCalendar connects directly with my Google Calendar and vice versa. And so all my calendars connect vice versa. Same thing within my automation system here too. So then now, whenever somebody goes into the system, because I use my calendar from my automation system, so now they do that, and it syncs up to my business calendar, and from my business calendar mirrors back out to all the rest of my calendars. So I know on any given calendar, I know what I'm looking at, and I don't have to worry about jumping back and forth through all my calendars.
Yeah, I don't either. The only difference is I just utilize the software as like the catch-all.
Right.
And because it has project management and task management in it, I can put like all my to-do lists in there. So even sending out the reminders for this Zoom, guess what? That's in there. It's a checkable box for me. And with their AI assistant, it rearranges my schedule if I need to around my meetings. It will rearrange my tasks throughout my day.
Yeah.
So why we do it because it also takes the task from the project. Like if I have the project in stage one, it will take the task from stage 1 and it will assign them on my calendar. And then once I progress the project to stage 2, it will then assign the stage 2 task on Chris's calendar because we're on a team account. So
Right.
that's what we did. But again, it just makes it's a little bit of a different it's a
It's
little
the
bit
same but different.
yeah, same but different, exactly.
Yeah, and like yeah, it's like it's crazy. But you know, doesn't matter what you're utilizing. You have to know what you have and how to use it.
Yeah.
You know, it really doesn't. You know, um, we'll go back to cars again. I'm by trade an automotive technician, so I always go back to cars, and I can always relate it too. So every vehicle will have its ups and downs in something. So one might have more horsepower and one might have more torque.
Yep.
Different things for different aspects of what you're doing.
I
You're
was gonna
trying to
say
sell
mine's
cars,
all
you
torque.
you're huh?
I was gonna say mine's all torque. No horsepower, Chris. They put 0 to 60 and then they just put a check mark. They said yes, it will do that. But
Oh my
that's what
goodness.
happened, dude. Like I got the old 7.3 with the ZF6 in it, so it was built for
Oh no,
reliability.
you got that mistaken. It was like 0 to 6 gas miles of gallon. If
Eh,
you got the 7.3 in there, yeah, that's what you got.
I do all right on the highway.
Okay.
Believe it
Well,
or
yeah,
not.
on the highway, downhill with the wind behind you.
Eh, she she doesn't do too bad. I usually get like probably 10 to 12 even with towing. Believe it or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah,
But
no, they're pretty good now. They're pretty good now.
similarly, right? Like you're saying, like if you're trying to zip around town, you got a bunch of errands and you're trying to find parking easily and you got to navigate tight spaces, my truck is not for you. You know,
Right.
if you want to pull a whole fucking house from one state to another, guess what? I can do that.
Exactly. So, like here's the thing. You have street races, right? Track racing.
Yeah.
Okay. Lots of slowing down, stepping on the brake, turnings, lefts, rights, and all that stuff, right? Well, there you need to their horsepower would probably be more suitable. And this, I can get more in depth with it, but very simply, horsepower is probably going to be a lot better in that aspect because the more horsepower that you have, you're going to be able to get up and take off a lot faster.
Yep.
Now, in a longer track, like the longer ovals themselves, you having the torque, having that high end, being able to pull on the torque line as you're at your faster speeds, that's going to produce better torque for you on in the long run on those types of races. So now again, it depends on what you're doing, what race you're utilizing, and what car you are. So you can have a Lamborghini, so you can have a Lamborghini that's got 500 horsepower, and you have a Subaru WRX with 500 horsepower, right? Two
Yeah.
vehicles have 500 horsepower, right? Well, the V12 and the Lamborghini itself, like that's all it is a V12. Everyone looks at it as like, hey, horsepower, this and that, it's cool. But like if you look at uh the torque ratio based upon the transmissions,
Mm-hmm.
that Subaru can outblow anything. Now we've all seen Kent Block in his Ford Fiesta, custom Ford Fiesta, racing
Mm-hmm.
around in Dubai in Gymkhanas, rest in peace, Ken Block.
Yeah.
But running his Ford Fiesta. Dude, that there was a real pull on those other. There's this scene where there's Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, and stuff like that, and they all were out of stop, and him, they were all out of stop, and he pulled on all of them.
Yeah.
And if that's in a little Ford Fiesta, granted that whole thing is tricked out. Weight ratio itself is a little bit different, but still, if you're paying quarter million for a car for a Lamborghini, you're obviously getting a light chassis. It's super light as hell. So that
Yeah.
there actually plays into it too. But again, if you have that torque to that same thing, so it doesn't matter what your horsepower is. That Subaru can have 1,000 foot-pounds of torque to that 700 horsepower foot-pounds of torque on a Lamborghini, and that Subaru is still going to pull because
I
it's
was gonna
got more
say
torque.
I see that a lot in the diesel scene. You see all these dudes going and buying Cummins and Power Strokes and the new L5P Duramaxes because those big heavy blocks, they can run stupid amounts of boost for no good reason. Like
Right.
they just can't. And so they build these like they're 8,000 pound fucking sleds, like they're heavy, but like you're saying, Chris, they can gap a fucking Lamborghini, and you're like, this doesn't make any sense. But also similarly, right? Like, don't ever ask them to make a turn. It's not gonna
Right,
happen.
exactly.
They're gonna roll, But
Now
that,
the Lamborghini can turn like on a dime. So like, yeah. But again, now it just depends on what you're utilizing. And now circling back around to everything, like what do people miss out in their systems? Dude, they don't know what they need. They don't know what they have. Oh, I got this big old Dodge Dually and stuff, this big old Commons and whatever and everything. It's like, yeah, but dude, you got to show up to a business meeting and stuff, and you got, and it's an eco-friendly company and stuff, and you pull up in that thing, dude, like you're losing out on the business. Right? You got to know again, you got to know your customer, you got to know your clients, you got to know what system you have, you got to know your car, what vehicle you're driving for what purpose. Okay, so if I'm going to an eco-friendly type company and stuff for a business meeting, I'm probably going to use my Toyota Prius,
yep,
and do something like that. And I'm going to get that. But if you're probably not going to get it showing up in that big ass diesel and like polluting everything and like, oh yeah, pedal pushers, you know.
right,
You're probably not going to get it. And again, that's where you got to know what you have, what you need, and how to utilize it,
yeah,
and
and also to
systems
not,
in life, talking to sellers, everything you have to know. That's not just a matter of, oh, I can talk to people. Dude, we all got those people that can just talk. They can talk a good game, right? They can just talk and talk and talk. But then you hear just kind of the shitty smart aleck, talking that they're doing. They
mm-hmm.
just think that they're Joe Cool. Oh, I'm gonna get this deal just because I'm cool. Like, like watch it. Like everybody loves me and stuff. But like we all have those people where it's just like you know them, and it's just like, dude, like really, like why do you say that? They're not a bad person, but it's just like, why do you say that? Why do you do this? Why this?
It's just them. And they usually come up with the rationalization on the backside, like similarly, like you were saying with the dually, right? Don't go buy a dually to pull a fishing boat when your fishing boat could be pulled by a Toyota Tacoma. It's just not
Exactly.
necessary. You just spent $87,000 on a truck that you don't need because you're pulling what, a $2,000 boat or a jet ski? Like, come on, guys.
Exactly.
I just saw somebody had, you'll laugh at this, Chris. I was on my way to my dad's house yesterday. An old, like probably '05 Chevy Impala was pulling two jet skis on the way down to the boat launch. Probably not the best
Why?
vehicle for the job.
No.
Just like all the
Like
people
it,
I see with the half tons pulling their 32-foot RV. Probably not the
right.
best vehicle for the job, but not stopping them.
Exactly. And that's where it's like, dude, like this is so wrong on so many levels, but like I give it to you. I give it to you. You know, um like back in Phoenix, dude, like I give it to the Mexicans over there, dude, because of the fact that they go like I've had to take the forklift, lift up the trailer just so that way the axle will drop and they could put a 4x4 on the leaf spring, right? So that way they can overload the damn trailer and pull out of the yard. And then they need to tarp the load. You got one Mexican that just goes through and lays on it and goes, okay, we're good to go. And then they take off. And I've seen them pull out down the street with it. I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay. But like that's what I mean. You got to know what you got and what you don't have, and what's really going to be beneficial for you. So if you're spending all this money on a Lamborghini and like you're like, well, gas is just so expensive. It's not that the fact that the gas is expensive, it's just you got the wrong vehicle for that.
Well, that and so to run with that analogy you just made about the trailer, right? Like that puts your business at risk. You're risking
Exactly.
hurting somebody, you're risking getting pulled over, you're risking breaking stuff, you're risking killing somebody if you can't stop the damn thing. Like
Exactly.
And so I would ask you, if you don't have the proper systems in your business and you're not tracking everything the way you're supposed to, what are you risking? Like, how much money are you leaving on the table?
Exactly. And like, and then again, if you don't know how to operate that vehicle with that type of weight and everything, that's something that you shouldn't be doing. You should be hiring a professional driver to be in there,
Yeah.
you know? And again, so now it comes back to the same thing. Hey, this system will do the work. Automation is a great system, something that you need, but hey, it may be too much for you to handle. You may need to have a specialist come in here and work on this with you too and help maintain it, Or I can also, you can pay me and I can help train you to understand how to do this, you know? And so I do those things too. By helping other people and it's like, hey, they'll, buy me for a couple months and it's like, hey, I'm there for them whenever they need. I'm their personal concierge. They need a special workflow made out. Like, yeah, like I'll come in and I'll do that with them. Right. And that's what's good about that too, is that now it's not necessarily in my system though either. Like, even if it's not in my system, I'll still help them out in theirs, and because they all work the same. It's like a European, Asian, and domestic cars. They all have cylinders. That's intake, exhale system, which is
Yeah.
a very simple four-stroke on in every engine. A purge valve is called something different on a Asian or a European than what we call it here. We call it gas here. Europe calls it petro. Same
Yep.
thing, you know. So in reality, all systems are all these systems are really the same. But you have to have that understanding of it, and it's you know it's great. You have to have that understanding, and if you really don't, then people wind up failing. Don't worry about trying to get a system that you don't need, but get a system that you know you will need because you're going to grow into it. So that's what I say. You have to know what you're doing and have to know what you need, or at least talk to people, because that was what I started asking myself, was like, what do I need it to do? Great. Like, what do I need? What do I need it to do? What am I going to do? So
Hmm.
I started doing it that way, and now it's just a matter of building things out just to, make it usable for people. It's like, hey, take out all the headaches of having people trying to figure out how to do something. There's somebody else out there that knows how to do it. Just pay to how, to learn about it. You
Yeah.
can learn 90% about it and then still do it yourself. That's fine. There's always going to be a learning curve. Doesn't matter what you do, you know. Um, you're always going to be able to be taught something, but it's then it kind of up to you to, adhere your own techniques to it, and that's just kind of where it comes into play there.
Yeah, man, definitely agree. We are coming close to the top of the hour, Chris. So before we get too close to that, where people find you at?
Here, there, everywhere. No.
Well, I know you're listed
uh
on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
yeah, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Let's see, where am I at? Facebook, Chris Podkowa. You can also Facebook Podautomation CRM, Instagram, Chris underscore pod underscore Podkowa. Tried getting pod, but that was taken. And very many variants of it were taken, so I just stuck with Chris Podkowa on that one. But then we also have Podautomation CRM on Instagram as well. And then YouTube is Podautomation CRM as well. There you can follow me and see all the goodness that I'm doing with these bot build outs that I'm doing, with the workflows that I'm building out. And, I'm just kind of starting to put them out there. That's not a step by step on how to do this, but it's just like, hey, you put this there, this there. And, like I'm going through and building out workflows for different clients and stuff like that. And, I'm just showcasing like what it is, what it does, and like how you can modify it, so because the way that my workflows work are going to be different than what somebody else would actually want. Again, difference is one's Burger King, one's McDonald's, they're the same but different. So
And if they're an integrator or they want to meet an integrator, they can text integrator to what's the number?
770-802-1100 to join our integrator Unite calls, which is bi-weekly. So not this Thursday, but next Thursday. We're gonna have another one. I'm not sure what our topic's gonna be there yet, but we still got time.
Yeah, we still got time, and I'm sure you and I will do another integrator unite call, whether it's presenting on AI scraper bots again, like we did a few months ago, or it's just doing another what kind of integrator are you?
Yeah, because there's still definitely like it's still an open area. Because I know myself, I get people that come up to me and hey, I'm an integrator, and it's like, well, what do you mean you're an integrator? Well, I don't like talking to people, so I'm an integrator. It's like doesn't mean that you are.
Yep.
Do you know how to do this, and like find this and find that? Oh, no, okay, well then great. You just don't like talking to people. Doesn't
Yep.
matter.
You're an introvert. It doesn't make you an integrator.
Introvert is not an integrator. I
Any
like that.
any final thoughts for people, Chris?
Um, systems, you're always going to need one. It's a must. You have to. Um, I always just ask you this though. What do you need your system to do? Think about that. And I would keep coming back around and asking yourself even more, get deeper and deeper on that. Just kind of like your 7 questions deep. Okay, well, I need it to text. Like, okay, great. Almost every system out there can text, but why do you need it to text? What do you need it to do? Do you need automations? Do you want to try to, have as limited people as possible? Are you trying to build the biggest team? Are you, where are your flaws? Why do you need the system, with automations? Like, why do you need all these automations? Because I'm tired of losing these leads. Okay, great. Like, you got to keep asking yourself these questions so you can actually find out what you're actually going to be needing and looking for.
Yep. And like
Oh,
Chris and I are
one
always telling,
more. You
yeah,
need a system today. Like, that's it.
that's what I was
You
about to
need
hit
one
on. So
today.
Chris and I are always telling people the best time to plant an oak tree is 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. And
Yes.
similarly, you need a system yesterday, but guess what? The next best time for a system is today.
Yes. And ultimately people need a system tomorrow. And when they really should have gotten it today to actually learn about it. So tomorrow
Yep.
is too late. And then also too, that there's a big downfall on some of these businesses too, because they grow and fight the system, get into it, and then they just think that they're just going to learn it overnight. And it doesn't. It doesn't happen. There is a learning curve. Doesn't matter who you are, there is a learning curve. I still have a learning curve to a lot of things.
Yeah,
So
I would definitely
doesn't
agree.
happen today.
Awesome, guys. Chris, I appreciate you coming on for another beautiful episode, guys.
Absolutely.
We are here every single Sunday, and the only thing that we ever ask is that if we made you think, we made you smile, if we made you laugh, if you had a good time, if you enjoyed it, or you got value from this, please, please, please come back, see us, and bring a friend, and we will catch you guys next time. Till then.
Absolutely.